There are moments in life when we reach a point of expectancy, a point where we begin to sense that something significant is on the horizon. It's like the moment before the rain breaks the sky. There's a stillness, a quiet expectation that something is about to shift. You can feel it in your spirit, but you can't see it with your eyes. It's not a question of if it will happen, but when. You see, God is not just a provider, He is a surpriser. His ways are beyond our understanding, and His plans are often far greater than we could ever imagine. There are times in life when He steps in, when He turns the page of your story in a way that you never saw coming. And when He does, it will always be at the right time, in the right place, and for the right purpose. Now, there are some signs that indicate that God is about to surprise you. Let me share them with you. Divine disturbance, God disrupts your routine to prepare you for greater things. Unusual favors, doors will open for you that you didn't expect, positioning you for something bigger. Feeling of being stretched, God enlarges your capacity to handle more, preparing you for greater responsibility. Divine connections. New relationships will be formed, bringing opportunities and support for your purpose. Season of silence. Before the breakthrough, God works behind the scenes, preparing everything in quiet. Expectancy. The signs are clear that God is setting you up for a surprising, life-changing move. There are times in life when everything feels out of place, when your normal routine is suddenly interrupted by something unexpected. It's not just a small inconvenience or a temporary inconvenience. It's a divine disturbance, a moment when God shakes things up in your life to prepare you for something bigger. It feels unsettling, as if the world around you is changing in ways you don't fully understand. But let me tell you something. This disturbance is not a punishment. It's a preparation. God will often disturb our peace because He's getting us ready for the breakthrough we didn't know we needed. When God disturbs your peace, it can feel like your plans are falling apart, your goals are being delayed, and everything you thought you were certain about is now in question. But understand this is not the end. It's not a setback, it's a setup. When God disturbs your peace, He's not causing chaos without reason. He's stirring things up to get your attention and redirect your focus. You may have been too comfortable, too settled in your routine, and this disruption is exactly what's needed to awaken you to the new things He's about to do in your life. Think about the story of Joseph in the Bible. He was living his life, having dreams about his future, but everything changed the moment his brothers decided to sell him into slavery. That was a disturbance. A violent one, no doubt, but it was necessary. Joseph was comfortable in his father's house, living a life of favor, but God had a much greater purpose for him. Through this disturbance, Joseph was moved to a place where he would eventually rise to power, save nations, and fulfill the dreams that God had planted in him long before. What looked like a tragedy was actually a divine disturbance, shifting Joseph's life in a direction he never expected, but one that ultimately led to the fulfillment of his destiny. When God disturbs your peace, it's often because He's preparing you for something greater. It might not feel good in the moment, but it's necessary for your growth and the fulfillment of your purpose. Disruptions force us to step outside of our comfort zones, to see life from a different perspective, and to trust God in ways we never have before. It's easy to follow God when everything is going well, but it's in the disturbance that you discover who you really are and who God really is in your life. If you're going through a season where things just aren't going as planned, where your life seems to be in a constant state of flux, recognize that this might be God's way of preparing you for a season of blessing. He knows that you can't handle the fullness of what He wants to do in your life until you're shaken free from the familiar. Sometimes He needs to remove the old before he can bring in the new. The disturbance is a sign that you're being realigned with your purpose, that God is positioning you for something bigger than what you've known. But in the midst of the disturbance, you have a choice. You can either resist it, fight against it, and try to hold on to what you know, or you can trust God and embrace the shift. Trust that this disturbance is not meant to harm you, but to help you. It may not feel comfortable, but growth never happens in a comfortable space. God is shaping you, stretching you, and preparing you for what he has already ordained for your life. He is a master at orchestrating your life, and even in the disturbance, he is at work. So when you find yourself in the middle of a disruption, when your peace is disturbed, don't panic. Don't be afraid or discouraged. This is the moment when God is moving you into position for what's next. This disturbance is not random, it's divine. It's God's way of stirring up something within you that will lead to a breakthrough, a transformation, and a divine elevation that you could never have anticipated. Embrace the disturbance. Trust the process. God is about to surprise you in ways you could never have imagined. Unusual favor is one of the clearest signs that God is about to surprise you. It's a phenomenon that cannot be explained by your own efforts, your qualifications, or your merits. It is simply the hand of God at work in your life, causing doors to open where they were once closed, providing opportunities you didn't think were possible. When God is about to do something incredible in your life, he will often begin by showering you with favor. This favor will manifest in ways that don't make sense. You may find yourself in situations where you are given opportunities that others might not even be considered for. It's as if something supernatural is at play, as if favor has found its way into your life, and it's pushing you forward, lifting you up, and placing you in the right places at the right times. This is not just about luck or coincidence. It is divine favor working behind the scenes. It is the favor of God will show up in your relationships. People will start to treat you better than you could have ever expected. Doors that were once tightly shut will swing open for you, not because of who you know or what you've done, but because God has chosen to bless you. Those who once overlooked you or dismissed you will suddenly see your value, and they will open doors for you. This favor has the power to accelerate your progress, to fast track you to places you never thought you could reach. God will use the people around you, sometimes even strangers, to position you for the blessings he has in store. Think about the story of Esther. A young Jewish woman, orphaned and alone, found herself in a foreign land with no visible prospects for advancement. Yet, through the favor of God, she was placed in the king's palace, a position no one could have anticipated. The favor that was on her life led her to become queen, and through her, an entire nation was saved. This wasn't just about her beauty or her skills. It was about God's favor opening doors she never imagined would open. When God places his favor on your life, it's not just about elevating you, but also about fulfilling his divine plan through you. Unusual favor also means that opportunities will come your way when you least expect them. It might be a job offer, a partnership, or even an invitation that you thought was out of your reach. But favor isn't about deserving it. It's about God's grace. Favor is unearned, unmerited, and undeserved, and yet it is freely given by God to those he has called. When God is about to surprise you, he will begin to flood your life with these unexpected opportunities. It's his way of showing you that he is in control and that he is leading you to the place where he can bless you abundantly. During times of favor, you also notice that things begin to align in your favor in ways that are impossible to explain. You may be facing a situation that seems impossible, but then you experience a breakthrough that leaves you in awe. It could be that a difficult contract gets approved, an unexpected financial blessing comes through, or a long-awaited opportunity suddenly materializes. Favor works in ways that defy logic, and reason. It's as though God himself is moving on your behalf, causing things to fall into place at just the right moment. But don't mistake favor for a sign of entitlement. The favor of God comes with responsibility. It's a sign that God is positioning you for greater things, but it's also a sign that he trusts you with those things. Favor is a tool to advance God's kingdom through your life, to expand his influence through your actions, and to be a blessing to others. Not just for your personal gain, but for the purpose God has for you. With favor comes the expectation that you will steward it well, use it wisely, and remain humble. When God begins to pour out unusual favor, it's a clear indication that he is positioning you for the next chapter in your life. This is not a season for you to shrink back or doubt yourself. It's a season to walk boldly into the opportunities God is providing. When favor is at work, it's a sign that God is setting you up for something greater. He is opening doors, aligning resources, and positioning you in places where you will thrive, not because of anything you've done, but because of his grace. So when you begin to experience unusual favor in your life, recognize it for what it is. A sign that God is about to surprise you in ways that will leave you amazed. The favor you are receiving is not just for today, it is preparing you for the greater things that are coming. Embrace it, trust in it, and allow God to use you in ways you never imagined. Your season of favor is a sign of the divine surprise that awaits. When you begin to feel stretched, when life pushes you beyond your comfort zone, it is often a sign that God is preparing you for something greater. Stretching is never easy. It pulls you in ways that make you uncomfortable, that challenge your limits and test your patience. But it is in these moments of discomfort that growth happens. God is expanding your capacity to handle more, to achieve more, and to fulfill the purpose he has placed in your life. This process of stretching is necessary because God's plans for you are always bigger than your current limitations. Think about the process of growth. Just as a plant has to be stretched and pulled in order to break through the soil, you too must be stretched in order to break through the boundaries of what you have known. The stretching happens so that you can embrace the larger vision that God has for you. Without it, you would remain confined to a place of mediocrity, never reaching the potential God placed inside of you. There will be seasons when God stretches you in ways that seem overwhelming. You may find yourself taking on new responsibilities, stepping into unfamiliar roles, or facing challenges that you feel ill-equipped to handle. But in those moments, know that God is not leaving you to struggle alone. He is right there with you, providing the strength and wisdom you need to overcome each obstacle. The stretching may feel like pressure, but it is actually God preparing you to carry the weight of the blessing he is about to pour into your life. When God stretches you, he isn't simply increasing your workload or placing unnecessary burdens on you. No, he is increasing your influence, your capacity to lead, and your ability to make an impact. He is expanding your mind, your heart, and your spirit so that you can receive all that he has in store for you. The stretching process is uncomfortable, but it is also a sign that God believes in your potential and is preparing you for the greatness that lies ahead. This stretching will often come in the form of new challenges. It could be a new job, a new responsibility, a new project, or even a new relationship. Each challenge will force you to grow in ways that you may not have anticipated. But with each challenge comes the opportunity for advancement, for progress, and for development. When you feel stretched, remember that God is never going to give you more than you can handle. His stretching is always purposeful. It is designed to enlarge your heart, your mind, and your spirit. Take the example of David. When he was a young shepherd, he never imagined he would become the king of Israel. But through the stretching of his faith and his endurance, God prepared him for a task far beyond what he could have understood at the time. David was stretched when he faced Goliath, when he fled from Saul, and when he endured the loss of his own family. But each season of stretching built something inside of him. A resilience, a wisdom, a reliance on God that positioned him to fulfill his purpose as king. What David didn't know during the stretching seasons was that God was preparing him for the throne. Stretching doesn't just prepare you for the tasks ahead, it also prepares you to handle the blessings that come with the territory. Often we think that when God blesses us, everything will be smooth sailing. But the truth is, the more God blesses you, the more he requires of you. He stretches you to ensure that you can carry the weight of his blessing without being overwhelmed by it. The larger your purpose, the more capacity you need to manage it well. If you've ever felt like you were being pulled in every direction, it's because God is expanding you to hold what he's about to release in your life. It's important to recognize that this stretching process is a sign of God's trust in you. He would not stretch you if he didn't believe you were capable of handling what lies ahead. God sees the potential inside of you, and he knows that you are ready for the next phase of your life. The stretching is a confirmation that he is preparing you for something greater than you can even imagine. If you're feeling stretched, don't resist it. Don't fight against it. Lean into it. Trust that this discomfort is temporary and that on the other side, you will be more equipped, more prepared, and more capable than ever before. Remember, stretching is a sign that God is enlarging your capacity to receive the new things he has in store. The more you are stretched, the more room you will have to hold the greatness God has for you. Embrace the process, trust the journey, and know that God is shaping you for something extraordinary. In the end, you will look back and see that the stretching was necessary to bring you into the next phase of your life. And when you stand in the place of your breakthrough, you will be able to handle it with grace and strength because you have been prepared through the stretching. When God is about to surprise you, he often begins by bringing the right people into your life at the right time. These divine connections are never by accident. They are carefully orchestrated by God to help you fulfill your purpose. Relationships, whether personal or professional, are powerful tools in God's hands. They have the potential to open doors, provide guidance, and introduce you to opportunities that you never could have achieved on your own. The right people placed at the right moment can completely change the course of your life. God knows the significance of the people in your life. He understands that your destiny is connected to the relationships you build. As you move forward in your purpose, he will place people along your path who will help, support, and encourage you. These people may not always be the ones you expect. Sometimes they may not even look like what you imagined they would. But when God is working on your behalf, he will bring people into your life who will help you reach your potential. Think about the story of Ruth. She was a widow, alone, and facing an uncertain future. But God brought Boaz into her life, a man who would not only redeem her, but also position her in the lineage of David and ultimately the lineage of Jesus. Ruth had no idea that her relationship with Boaz would change her life forever. But God had already planned that divine connection, and in the right moment, it transformed her future. What looked like a loss was actually a setup for the greatest blessing Ruth could have imagined. Through Boaz, Ruth entered a new season of favor and purpose, one that aligned with God's plan for her life. This is the power of divine connections. They bring you into alignment with your purpose in ways you never anticipated. When God is about to surprise you, divine connections also mean that opportunities will be made available to you through the people he places in your life. Think about Esther. She was an orphan and a foreigner in a land that was not her own, yet God placed her in the palace of the king. It was there that she met Mordecai, who would guide her and help her understand the purpose God had for her. Without Mordecai's counsel and encouragement, Esther might never have had the courage to approach the king and save her people. God used Mordecai to bring Esther into the fullness of her destiny. Through this connection, Esther was able to impact an entire nation and fulfill God's plan for her life. Divine connections will always lead you closer to God's will for your life, even when you don't fully understand them at the time. Sometimes, divine connections come in the form of mentors, leaders, or people who have gone before you. These individuals have walked the path you are walking and can offer wisdom, guidance, and support. They help you avoid pitfalls, give you advice on how to navigate difficult seasons, and provide encouragement when you feel weak. God will place these mentors in your life to pour into you, to sharpen you, and to help you grow. The wisdom they share can be the difference between success and failure, growth and stagnation. But divine connections aren't just about receiving help. They're also about what you bring to others. God doesn't just connect you with people who will help you. He also connects you with people you can help. Your purpose is intertwined with the people you meet because God wants to use you to make a difference in their lives. Just as you receive wisdom and encouragement from others, you too are called to give. God places you in people's lives for a reason. To offer guidance, to provide strength, to share what He has taught you, and to be a source of hope for those around you. These connections are not just random encounters. They are intentional and purposeful. When God brings people into your life, it is because He has a plan for how they will help shape your destiny. Sometimes the connections will be immediate, and other times they will take time to develop. But regardless of the timing, know that God is working behind the scenes, connecting you with the people who will help you fulfill your purpose. You might not always recognize the significance of these connections right away. Sometimes they appear to be ordinary relationships, but as time goes on, you begin to see how they fit into the bigger picture of your life. The job offer from a former colleague, the unexpected phone call from a friend you haven't spoken to in years, or the new acquaintance who shares your passion for a cause. They are all part of God's plan to align you with your destiny. In these moments, pay attention to the people God is bringing into your life, because they may hold the key to the next door He is about to open. As you walk forward in your purpose, trust that God is aligning the right relationships for you. He knows who you need to meet, when you need to meet them, and how they will help you fulfill His plan for your life. These divine connections are signs that God is about to do something amazing in and through you. So embrace them, value them, and allow God to use you to be a blessing to those He has brought into your life. The relationships you build today will carry you into the future that God has already prepared for you. There are times when life feels like it's standing still, when everything seems silent, and you might even feel as though God is not listening to your prayers or answering your calls. Yet, in those quiet seasons, God is working behind the scenes in ways you cannot see or understand. These seasons of silence are not an indication of abandonment. They are often the precursor to the greatest breakthroughs and surprises in your life. The silence doesn't mean inactivity. It simply means that God is preparing everything for your next season in ways that you cannot comprehend. God's silence is often His way of positioning you for what's to come. Just as a farmer waits patiently for the crops to grow, after planting seeds, God allows time to pass in silence so that He can work out the details. He's orchestrating events, aligning resources, and bringing everything into place. We might feel that nothing is happening, but the truth is, God is always working, even in the quiet moments. His silence is not a sign of disinterest, it's a sign of divine preparation. Think about the life of Jesus. Before His public ministry began, He spent 30 years in relative silence. He lived in the town of Nazareth, working as a carpenter, quietly preparing for the calling that was ahead of Him. People didn't see the behind-the-scenes preparation, but it was during that time that He was growing in wisdom and favor. God's silence didn't mean that Jesus was forgotten. It was a time of training, of building strength and character for the challenges to come. In those 30 years, everything that Jesus needed for his ministry was being developed. Even though the world didn't see it, there is a lesson here for us. In the seasons of silence, God is preparing us for what lies ahead. Silence also teaches us to trust God in deeper ways. It can be easy to rely on what we can see or what we can control. But in the silent seasons, God is inviting us to trust him more fully. He wants us to lean on him and believe that he is working on our behalf, even when we don't see the results right away. This is when our faith is tested. And when we choose to trust God in the silence, our faith grows stronger. It's in the quiet moments that we learn to rely on God's timing, his wisdom, and his plans, even when they don't make sense. Consider the story of Abraham. God promised Abraham that he would be the father of many nations, but for years there was silence. The promise seemed delayed, and Abraham and Sarah grew old without seeing any sign of the fulfillment of God's word. Yet, in the midst of that silence, God was working. He was shaping their faith, preparing them to receive the promise that seemed impossible. When God finally spoke again, the miracle of Isaac was born. Abraham's faith, which had been tested in the silence, was ready to receive the fulfillment of God's promise. The silence wasn't a denial. It was a part of the process that made the miracle even more meaningful. In seasons of silence, it's important to remember that God is never idle. He is always moving, even if we can't see it with our natural eyes. There are times when God is preparing the right circumstances, setting up people and situations, and moving things into place. This silent work can't always be perceived right away, but it is just as important as the moments when things are visibly happening in our lives. God's silence doesn't mean that he has forgotten us. It's simply that he is working behind the scenes in ways that are far more significant than what we can see in the moment. It's also during these silent seasons that we are forced to examine our hearts. When there's nothing to do but wait, we begin to reflect on our desires, our motives, and our trust in God. Silence is a tool God uses to purify our hearts, to make sure we are in alignment with his will and his timing. It's in the quiet that we are invited to surrender our plans and our timelines, allowing God to lead us in his perfect way. We learn that God's silence is often his way of preparing us to receive the unexpected surprise he has planned for us, and he wants us to be ready, both spiritually and emotionally, to embrace it. When God is silent, it is also an opportunity for us to grow in patience. Patience is a fruit of the Spirit, and it's something that God cultivates in us during times of waiting. It's easy to become impatient when we want things to happen on our timeline, but in the silence, God is teaching us the value of waiting on his perfect timing. He is showing us that his plans are always worth the wait, and that the surprise he has in store will be worth every moment of silence. So if you find yourself in a season of silence, know that it's not a sign that God has forgotten you. He is working behind the scenes, preparing you for the surprising blessing that is on its way. Trust that his timing is perfect, and that when he speaks again, it will be worth the wait. In the silence, allow your faith to deepen, your patience to grow, and your trust in God to be solidified. When he finally reveals his plans for you, it will be more glorious than you could have ever imagined. When you begin to experience a shift in your mindset, it's a powerful sign that God is about to surprise you. A transformed mind is one of the greatest signs that God is preparing you for something new and extraordinary. Our thoughts shape the direction of our lives, how we see ourselves, how we perceive the world, and how we think about our challenges can either limit us or propel us toward the incredible future God has for us. When God begins to change the way you think, He's opening the door for a new season of breakthrough. The mind is a battlefield, and how we think has the power to either hold us back or propel us forward. The Bible speaks often about the importance of renewing our minds. Romans 12 verse 2 tells us to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. This transformation isn't just about changing the way you think in the moment. It's about a complete shift in how you see the world, yourself, and your purpose. God wants to give you a new perspective, one that sees opportunities rather than obstacles, one that sees favor instead of failure, and one that sees His hand at work in every area of your life. When your mind begins to align with God's truth, you will find that you are capable of far more than you once believed. A change in mindset also leads to a change in behavior. How you think affects how you act. If you believe that God has great things in store for you, your actions will reflect that belief. If you believe that your best days are ahead of you, you will live in anticipation of the future He has promised. On the other hand, if you believe that you are stuck or that your circumstances will never change, your actions will mirror that hopelessness. But when God shifts your mindset, it's like a switch being flipped. You begin to live with expectation, to walk with confidence, and to take steps toward the future He has promised. This shift in mindset often happens during times of struggle, when life feels difficult and the road ahead seems uncertain. God uses those moments to change the way we think. It's in the seasons of challenge that God can teach us how to see things from His perspective. He shows us that what looks like a setback is actually a setup for a comeback. He helps us to see that our difficulties are not signs of failure, but opportunities for growth. This mindset shift is necessary for the breakthrough that is coming. When you begin to view your challenges through the lens of faith, you will find that you are more equipped to handle them. One of the most powerful mindset shifts is when you move from a scarcity mentality to a scarcity mentality believes that there is not enough to go around, that resources are limited, and that if someone else wins, there's less for you. But an abundance mentality, on the other hand, recognizes that God is unlimited and that He can bless you in ways you never imagined. With an abundance mindset, you stop comparing yourself to others, and instead, you begin to see the unlimited potential that God has placed inside of you. You understand that His blessings are not finite, and that when He blesses one, He can bless all. When God shifts your mindset in this way, you begin to step into the abundance He has for you. Another critical shift is from a victim mentality to a victor mentality. The victim mentality focuses on limitations, on what has gone wrong, on the things that have been done to you. But the victor mentality focuses on possibilities, on God's ability to turn any situation around. When God shifts your mindset from a victim mentality to a victor mentality, you stop seeing yourself as a passive observer in your own life. You begin to see yourself as an active participant in the story God is writing for you. No matter what has happened in the past, you recognize that God is still in control and that He is using everything for your good. When God changes your mindset, He's preparing you for the great things He has in store. A changed mindset creates a space for the unexpected blessings to flow into your life. It opens your eyes to new opportunities that were once hidden, to new relationships that will elevate you, and to new possibilities that will move you closer to your purpose. A transformed mind is a sign that you are ready to receive more joy, more peace, more success, and more fulfillment. God's power to transform your mind is not just about thinking positive thoughts. It's about aligning your mind with His will. It's about seeing yourself through the lens of God's truth rather than through the lens of your past mistakes or your current circumstances. It's about believing that the God who called you is faithful to complete the good work He began in you. This transformation takes time, but when it happens, it completely shifts your outlook on life. When you begin to see yourself as God sees you, you will walk with a new confidence. You will no longer be limited by your past, or by what others say about you. You will walk into every room knowing that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, that you are destined for greatness, and that God has a purpose for your life that no one can take away. With this new mindset, you begin to expect the unexpected, to see God at work in ways you've never noticed before, and to recognize the miracles He's orchestrating in your life. A shift in mindset is not just a sign that God is about to surprise you, it's the key to unlocking the future He has already prepared for you. When you begin to think differently, you begin to live differently, you begin to walk in the fullness of what God has for you. The transformation in your mind will open the door to the extraordinary things that God is about to release in your life. As we reflect on the signs that God is about to surprise us, we see that the journey is not always easy, but it is always filled with purpose. The stretching of our faith, the divine connections, the silence, the mindset shifts, and the recognition that God is at work behind the scenes. Each of these signs points to the incredible things that are on the horizon. God's timing is perfect. His plans are far greater than we can imagine, and His surprises are beyond our wildest dreams. I encourage you to embrace these signs, trust in God's process, and remain expectant. When you find yourself in a season of stretching or silence, remember that it's all part of the preparation for something greater. When God changes the way you think, understand that it's His way of aligning you with the extraordinary future He has already designed. And when He brings the right people into your life, trust that they are there for a reason, to help you fulfill your purpose. May you continue to walk in faith, knowing that God is about to surprise you in ways that will exceed your expectations. Stay encouraged. Keep pressing forward and never lose sight of the incredible things that God has prepared for you. Good luck on your journey, and thank you for being part of this moment today. May you be blessed abundantly in all that you do.